Hello friends, good afternoon. Welcome to the EduSite Network. Our today's topic of discussion is indifference curve analysis and demand analysis, and this is part of our series on microeconomics. We have with us in our studio our subject expert Dr. Rajiv Shukla. He is the PhD coordinator at Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi. And with this introduction, I'd like to welcome sir and also request him to begin his today's lecture. Thank you so much.
Hello friends. Yesterday we had discussed about the facts of microeconomics principles, what is the meaning of utility analysis. With the help of utility analysis, how many approaches with the help of utility analysis we can explore, how can we measure the utility. So yesterday we discussed about the cardinal approach, and we discussed the two concepts, law of diminishing marginal utility and law of equimarginal utility. Today, in the last lecture, in the last slide, we are very much thoroughly discussed about the fact of indifference curve analysis, which is supposed to the concept under the ordinal approach of utility analysis. For this indifference curve analysis, before we begin with the indifference curve analysis and after that the indifference curve over, then we will discuss about the demand analysis. So demand analysis is also a very important factor of microeconomic principles. So let's begin with indifference curve analysis, which is under the ordinal approach of utility analysis. What is the meaning of indifference analysis, indifference curve analysis? As you discussed some of the fact of utility analysis, where we discuss about the cardinal approach. Now we will discuss about the ordinal approach and the concept of ordinal approach, which is called indifference curve analysis, and it has been developed by Edgeworth, and it was later preferred by J.R. Hicks and R.J.D. Allen. Both are the very well economists, and both are very well known economists in our areas. Indifference curve approach is also known as ordinal utility approach, where we discuss that under the ordinal utility approach, we can't be measured in numeric figure. We can measure utility in only for rank format. So indifference curve, how the indifference curve works, begin with this fact. Indifference curve basically indicates the consumer preference, which the consumer get the maximum satisfaction. So consumer express their utility in terms of preferences, not in terms of quantity. In earlier approach, in cardinal approach, we have seen that consumer preference in a numeric figure, 10 util, 5 util, 8 util, 4 util. Now the consumer preference not in numeric figure but also in terms of preferences or the terms of ranking. 1, 2, 3, 4 is a rank of products which the consumer gets the more satisfaction. So how it's work? What is the assumptions of indifference curve? The same assumptions, some of the same assumptions are here. A consumer is assumed to buy any two goods or combinations. Either the consumer buy the commodity of X or either the commodity of Y, buy any two goods in combinations. A consumer can rank the alternative combination and compare the level of satisfaction. Suppose consumer preferred a particular rank, and where the consumer get the maximum satisfaction. Now the consumer can allot a rank preference of their satisfaction. Either the rank showed, if the consumer rank first, if the consumer get the rank second, then it will assume that the particular commodity gives a better satisfaction in comparison to other, if the particular commodity ranked first by the consumer. So a consumer can rank the alternative combinations and compare their level of satisfaction, and he prefers a combination providing a higher level of satisfaction. The all matter is related to a higher level of satisfaction. With the help of indifference curve, what we try to get, we try only forget how the consumer behave to achieve a higher level of satisfaction. And with the same thing we discuss in cardinal approach, where with the help of numeric figure or with the help of some util parameter, where we get the maximum satisfaction, and we discuss about the consumer preference under the cardinal approach. Now ordinal approach, consumer can only prefer a ranks order, where we assume that the first one rank receive the higher consumption, higher utility analysis and higher consumption in terms of consumers. Consumer is a rational and his choice are transitive. The consumer behavior is assumed to be constant throughout the analysis. As we discussed the assumption of law of diminishing marginality, where the assumption is there that the units of the particular commodity are homogeneous. The same thing apply here. The consumer behavior is assumed to be constant throughout the analysis. If you choose, suppose if you choose the two combination or the three combination of two commodities, then it will never be allowed if you go to choose the third one. In a particular time period, you have to be choose only two commodity with some combinations. Now, what is the meaning of indifference schedule and how it works and how the indifference curve frame with the help of this schedule? For example, the following table shows the indifference schedule of combination of biscuits and cups of tea for a consumer. Suppose here are, if you can see over the table, here are some combinations A, B, C, D, E, F, cups of tea and biscuits, two commodities. As you have seen in the definition that the consumer have to be choose only two commodities with some combinations. Suppose first A combination where the consumer 1 cup of tea plus 50 biscuit, and the consumer get a combination where suppose the A combinations gives a better satisfaction or a higher satisfaction to consumer. For the B combination is another combination where the consumer gets a higher satisfaction. The other combination is C, where the consumer consume 3 cups of tea and the 26 biscuits. Here you can look, if you switch a combination from A to B, then you have to diminishes or you have to give up some units of particular product. As you see, when you switch A to B, then the cup of tea is increased from 1 to 2, but the biscuit is decreased, unit of biscuit is decreased 50 to 38, where we can assume or we can look over that if you have to get another combination with same satisfaction, then you have to give up particular unit of commodities which you consumed. When you get C combination or D combination, where the cup of tea increases and the units of biscuit is decreases. Why we give up the particular unit of commodity? Because all of the combinations are there gives up same satisfaction. Nobody suppose if you say the A combination is in rank first, or you can say it's a B combination is rank second, so B combination is maybe gives some decreased satisfaction. No, you have to maintain your satisfaction with the standard or with the maximized combination. If you get a combination, then the better unit you can consume the 1 cup of tea and the 50 units of biscuit. But if you can choose a B combination, the best combination was there is the 2 cups of tea is the 38 biscuits. So here, with the help of this unit, we can draw an indifference curve. What is the meaning of indifference curve? An indifference curve may be defined as the locus of various combinations of two goods which yield the same total satisfaction to the consumer. Same total satisfaction, not more than or not the less than. So this is one of the very much influence fact where you should be careful if anyone can ask about the indifference curve. When indifference curve may be defined as the locus of various combinations. Various combinations are there, but the same total satisfaction to the consumer. No one satisfaction you can say the first one is better than the second. No. Every combination on the same graph, on the same line of indifference curve gives a same total satisfaction. Either you can choose a combination or either you can choose a B combination. Here you can look goods Y and goods X. Now you can see the graph of indifference curve or the slope of indifference curve. It's a downward style, or it's a, you can say, a diminishes rate. Why? When you choose suppose if you can look at first one point here, where you get some units of goods and where you consume some units of X, and you can get this combination or this point of combination. At the same time, if you switch your combination into second point, then you have to give up some units of Y to consume more units of X to level of satisfaction are equal. So here you can give up. Why you can give up? Because the level of satisfaction becomes equal. So here graphical, if we are talking about the graphical representations of indifference schedule, so you can look over there with the help of same table, we can draw a indifference curve. All the combinations are on indifference curve A, B, C, D, E, F. All the combination. The same table which we discussed, and with the help of this table we can draw a indifference curve. Here you can look over on x-axis we have taken cups of tea, on y-axis we have taken biscuits, units of biscuits. At the level of 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 cup of tea, where you consume a unit of biscuit is 50, and on the 2 level where you can consume the units of biscuit is 40. All the combinations, I would like to also mention once again कि here you can look A, B, C, D, E, F, there are 5 combinations over indifference curve. Always remember कि no one combination gives a increase or the decrease level of satisfaction in comparison to others. All the combination on the same indifference curve gives a level of equal satisfaction. If the consumer gets a satisfaction from A combination, then the same combination, if he switch on B combination, then he gets a same combination what he gets on the level of A. No one combination gives a differentiate combination if all the combinations are on same indifference curve. This is a very important feature. Sometimes viewers may be in confusion that if the first one combination maybe gets a more satisfaction to consumer. No, every combination on the same indifference curve gives a same level satisfaction to consumer. Consumer have liberty, either he can choose a combination, either he can choose a B or up to F. But if he switch A to B, then the consumer have to give up some units of particular commodity to maintain the level of satisfaction. So all the combination gives a same level satisfaction to consumer, and consumer have to be chosen either A, B, C, D, E, F. All the combination gives a same level satisfaction. What is the meaning of indifference map, which is also a very important feature of indifference curve? Here you can look, a collection of indifference curve is known as indifference map, and what we discussed near about previous slide, which I told you that no one combination gives a maximize or the minimize satisfaction, because all the combination on IC curve gives a same level satisfaction. Now in indifference map, a collection of indifference curve is known as indifference map. A higher indifference curve indicates a higher level of satisfaction. Now the level of satisfaction is increasing here. If you want to get a higher level of satisfaction, then you have to change your curve also. On the same curve, all the combination gives a same level satisfaction. But if the consumer change the curve, indifference curve को ही अगर change कर देता है, ऊपर वाले indifference curve पे आ जाता है, then he gets a maximum satisfaction or the more satisfaction in comparison to previous one. So here in the diagram you can show IC1, IC2 and IC3. Suppose if the consumer is on IC1, then he gets the same, then he gets a level of satisfaction. Suppose that another combination is on IC2. Suppose another combination was on IC3. Or if the consumer on IC1 switch to IC2, to get the some other combination, then he also gets a more satisfaction or the higher level of satisfaction in comparison to previous one. So what I want to say, if the curve is changed, if the interference curve is changed, then the consumer gets a higher level of satisfaction of any combination. Now in this figure, IC3 is one of the highest curve in indifference map. So if the consumer choose any combination on IC3 where he gets a higher level of satisfaction in comparison to other previous curve, IC1 or IC2. So this is one of the important point which I would like to mention, कि अगर आपका कर्व नहीं बदलता है और आप किसी भी कॉम्बिनेशन का उपभोक्ता लेता है सेम कर्व पर, तो उसको सेम संतुष्टि की प्राप्ति होती है कोई भी कॉम्बिनेशन अगर वो लेता है. सपोज ए बी सी डी ई, अगर वो एक ही कर्व पर है, अगर वो कर्व बदल जाता है और अगर कॉम्बिनेशन IC2 और IC3 पे आ जाते हैं, तो विच वन ऑफ द हाईएस्ट कर्व, विच वन ऑफ द हाईएस्ट कर्व, देन ही गेट्स द हायर लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फैक्शन. जिस कर्व, जो कर्व सबसे ऊपर होगा उस पर जो कॉम्बिनेशन होगा, वेयर द कंज्यूमर गेट्स द हायर लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फैक्शन. अभी we discussed about the consumer have to give up some units of particular commodity to maintain their level of satisfaction. What is called? This is called marginal rate of substitution, MRS, where the consumer maintain their level of satisfaction when he switch from the combination A to B or the B to C, where he have to maintain their level of satisfaction. So consumer have to give up some particular unit of commodity to, in comparison to maintain their level of satisfaction, where you have seen in the previous slides कि if you switch from A to B, then the cup of tea is increasing, but at the same time some units of biscuit are decreasing, or you have to give up some units of biscuit also to maintain their level of satisfaction. So जो what you are giving up right now, which is called marginal rate of substitution, जिस दर से वो उस units को कम करता है, this is called marginal rate of substitution. What is the meaning of marginal rate of substitution? So the MRS is the rate at which when the commodity can be substituted for another. कि जिस दर से वो substitute कर रहा है, जिस दर से उसको वो गिव अप कर रहा है और एक लेवल को मेंटेन करने के लिए कंज्यूमर हैव टू बी गिव अप एट रेट एंड हैव टू बी मेंटेन देयर लेवल ऑफ सेटिस्फैक्शन व्हेन ही स्विच फ्रॉम द कॉम्बिनेशन A to B or either B to C. So the MRS is the rate which one commodity can be substituted for another, the level of satisfaction remaining the same. The marginal rate of substitution between two commodities, suppose X and Y, may be defined as the quantity of X which is required to replace one unit of Y. So in the combination of two goods, so that the total utility remains the same. आप इसको किसी statistical figure के अगर, because we are not using here a numeric figure. If you can say, suppose you can choose a combination of A, or we can denote a number of figure here. Suppose you can get 100 util satisfaction if we relocate this approach to cardinal. So suppose if you get 100 units on a particular combination of one cup of tea and 50 units of biscuit, and you have to be maintain your level of satisfaction when you switch from the combination A to B. As we discussed, the combination is the same, the satisfaction is the same. Either you can choose another combination. Suppose if you go to B combination, where you get the same satisfaction 100 util. So with the level of 100, or you with the how can you maintain the level of 100? अगर आप एक यूनिट कप ऑफ टी ले रहे हैं, 50 यूनिट्स बिस्किट ले रहे हैं और आपको 100 यूटिल के बराबर सेटिस्फेक्शन मिल रहा है, और दूसरे कॉम्बिनेशन पर अगर आप जा रहे हैं, तो यू हैव टू गिव अप सम यूनिट ऑफ पर्टिकुलर कमोडिटी and to increase a particular second one commodity. So why with the maintained level of satisfaction. B combination पे भी आपको 100 मिलेगा, लेकिन आपने एक increase किया, 2 cup of tea हो गई. When you increase a particular unit of commodity, then you have to give up some unit of second one commodity. Now to decrease level of unit of biscuits is from 550 to 38 to maintain the level of 100 util. So what I want to say, this is a very much important feature where you never be confused over there. So the marginal rate of substitution between two commodities is X and Y may be defined as the quantity of X which is required to replace 1 unit of Y in the combination of two goods, so that the total utility, or you can say which I discussed, is the 100 util suppose, तो which is total utility remains the same. वो 100 को सेम रखने के लिए आप एक तरफ बढ़ाते हैं तो दूसरी तरफ कुछ कम कर देते हैं. And the MRS is depends upon the price of the commodity. For example, suppose two commodities like X and Y, prices of X is assumed Rs10 and Y is Rs5. So if a consumer have 200 as income, he can purchase either 10 units of X and 20 units of Y as per their prices. Suppose if the price of X increases, consumer substitute more Y by reducing the consumption, obviously. So the aim of consumer is maximum satisfaction with his limited income. So obviously the marginal rate of substitution is depends upon the prices of the commodity. अगर X की प्राइस बढ़ती है, then definitely consumer shifts from X to Y because get the maximum satisfaction on spend his limited income. There are some properties of indifference curve also. As we have seen that indifference curve is always a downward situation. How can you, if the indifference curve is not in the same situation, is it possible to change the indifference curve slopes, and what will happen? Now we can see what is the properties of indifference curve. First one, indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. Why? As I discussed, indifference curve from the downward situation from Y slope to X slope. You can see over there from the goods Y to goods X. If the consumer suppose can get this combination, what we are discussed in previous slide, कि if you maintain your level of satisfaction, then you have to give up some particular unit of commodity. So the consumer, if the consumer switch from this one point to this one, then the level of particular goods you have to be reduces this one. When you increase the particular commodity, third point, then you have to be decreases the particular second commodity. Now the slope is there. जब आप एक को बढ़ाने के साथ दूसरे को कम करते जाते हैं, जब छोड़ते जाते हैं, then the slope is a downward situation. So indifference curve are always be a downward situation from left to right. Indifference curves have a negative slope. It indicates the marginal rate of substitution of the consumer. Consumer, to maintain their level of satisfaction, the consumer have to give up some particular unit of a second one commodity and some particular unit to increase in a first one commodity or the any one commodity. So any point on indifference curve provide equal satisfaction, which we have been discussed in previous slides. Same satisfaction on same curve. If the curve is changed, then the satisfaction is changed. Second one property, convexity to the origin. The convexity of the indifference curve implies two properties. First one, the two commodities are imperfect substitute for one another. This is one of the important feature here and important properties. The convexity of the indifference curve implies two properties. Convexity means होता है हिंदी में जिसको कहते हैं आप उत्तल तरीके से जो उठा हुआ स्लोप होता है. If you can see over there on slide, the slope is our convexity या convex slope लिए हुए है. Because of the two commodities are imperfect substitute for one another. Second one, the marginal rate of substitution between two goods decreases as a consumer moves along an indifference curve, and this characteristic of indifference curve is based on the postulate of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Because of give up of the units of the particular commodity, the slope are diminishing or the from the left to right, and the two commodities are imperfect substitute, not a perfect substitute. Here you can mention why the imperfect substitute. If the commodities are perfect substitute, then you have to a better alternate to spend their money in not only a particular goods X. If the Y is perfectly substitute, now you have to move all the income to Y. Because of imperfect substitute, you have to spend your income in some units of X as well as some units of on Y commodity. So that is called the imperfect substitution. The two commodities are imperfect substitute for one another, and marginal rate of substitution are one of the key factor why the convexity of the indifference curve implies this. Third one, indifference curve cannot intersect each other. Indifference curve never be intersect each other. If you can draw a more and more indifference curve on indifference map, then the indifference curve never be intersect each other. Why? If the indifference curve intersect each other, then the level of satisfaction never be same on the same indifference curve, never be the same. If you can look the cross one where the indifference curve intersect each other, if you can see, as we discussed, on the same indifference curve the level of satisfaction of all combinations are same. Suppose at the level of U1 and if the level of U2, if you mark the points on U1 and if you mark the points U2, then you find after get the intersecting of each other, the combination of U1 is lower and the U2 combination is greater than U1, which is not relevant or which is not similar what the law says. So law says indifference curve never be intersect each other because the level of satisfaction on same indifference curve are same. As we discussed, the fourth one properties we have already discussed. Higher indifference curve shows higher level of satisfaction. Which one of the indifference curve on the higher level, then the combination on the particular curve gets the more satisfaction or the higher satisfaction. If you can see the IC3 curve, where the consumer gets the more satisfaction in comparison to IC1 or IC2. You can see the third one, consumer equilibrium, and the budget line is there, is the red mark. So consumer equilibrium, which one of the point of the consumer equilibrium? The third one curve, which is the highest curve. If the consumer gets if the consumer consume the particular combination on IC3, then he gets a equilibrium and also maximum satisfaction. जितना इंडिफरेंस कर्व ऊपर होगा उसके ऊपर जो कॉम्बिनेशन आता है which the consumer received a highest or the largest or the maximum satisfaction, where the consumer gets over the highest curve IC3 as shown in figure. So here are the properties sum. We can draw our curve, then you can directly point it out the red mark on the highest curve. This one point where I try to locate the cursor here, this one point is where the consumer gets maximum satisfaction in comparison to IC1 or IC2. So simply जितना IC3 और the indifference curve ऊपर होगा, वहां पर जो भी combination है, that combination gives a maximum satisfaction to consumer. Or if the consumer can consume that combination, then he gets a maximum satisfaction in comparison to IC1 or IC2. So here, with the concluding remark of indifference curve, all the indifference curve depends on these basic line, two basic and two very important feature which the viewers can always remember. First, any combination on indifference curve or the indifference curve, if the indifference curve has some various combination on it where the consumer gets a same satisfaction of each one combination, no one combination can give a more or the minimum satisfaction to consumer. Consumer can get a same level of satisfaction at every combination on same indifference curve. Indifference curve is not changed. On the same indifference curve, consumer can get the same level of satisfaction from the each of combination. If the curve is changed, suppose if the curve is changed when the combination gives a minimum or the maximum satisfaction to consumer, and which one gives the maximum? If the indifference curve or the highest curve in indifference curve, then the highest IC3 as you seen in figure, IC3 gives a maximum satisfaction to consumer. So which one indifference curve is higher, then the combination on that curve gives a better satisfaction or the highest satisfaction to consumer. So here is the indifference curve analysis, which is under the ordinal approach. Now we are going to explore what is the meaning of demand and how it works. So what is the meaning of demand? Everybody knows in your own terms meaning of demand, law of demand, and which is a basic or you can say it's the bone of our economy. Everything is related to demand and everything is correlated to demand. So what is the meaning of demand and what is demand? So demand means effective desire or want for a commodity which is backed by ability and willingness to pay for it. In simple meaning, demand means effective desire. If you have demand, then you have to require a particular commodity, services or anything else. That implies that you have to require something. If you have a desire, that means you have a demand to particular, either if you require a particular commodity or the service required. So demand means effective desire or want for a commodity which is backed up by the ability, purchasing power and willingness to pay for it. You can see demand is equal to desire plus ability to pay and plus willingness to spend. Willingness to spend is also interrelate to demand. Why? Because if you have not willingness to spend, suppose if you have demand or if you have desire but you have not willingness to spend, and if you have not willingness to spend, then you are then you can say that you have no requirement to fulfill your demand, because you have to no willingness to spend. आप में खर्च करने की प्रवृत्ति नहीं है, then you are then this shows that you have to no require to fulfill your demand. And if you have willingness to spend, then that means that you have to fulfill your demand or you have to fulfill your desire. So that is called the effective desire. Demand is a relative concept, not absolute, and it is related to price, time and place. The demand for a commodity refers to the amount of it which will be bought per unit of time at a particular price. Everybody knows that demand is a vice versa relations, or you can say it's a negative relation to price. When the price is increased, demand is decreased, and when the price is decreased, the demand is increased. Inverse relation or the negative relation, indirect relation to price. So in individual market and the market demand, if we are talking about the individual and the market demand, so individual demand for a product is the quantity of its consumer would buy at a given price, and if we are talking about a market demand for a product is the total demand of all the buyers. Individual demand for a single consumer wants a particular commodity, that is called individual demand. But if we can gross total of all the individuals, then we can say a market demand. So market demand for a product is the total demand of all the buyers in the market taken together at a given price during a given period. So demand schedule, if you can draw a demand schedule, the tabular statement of price, quantity, demanded relationship at a given period of time. And there are two types of schedule. One is individual demand schedule and the second one is market demand schedule. It's a very basic or simple feature of demand. The types we are talking about the types of demand. There are we discussed about the individual demand, market demand, autonomous demand, derived demand, direct and indirect demand, demand for durable or the non-durable goods, and the short-term demand and long-term demand. There are some basic types of demand where you can see the present scenario also. So types of demand, as we discussed about the individual market, autonomous and the derived demand. Sometimes government can expand some of the basic social securities for all the citizens. So when the government expenses more and more on social security, some types of demand also derive with the implementation of these work by the government. Some types of demand. So when you say what is the meaning of derived or the indirect or the direct demand, so sometimes demand generate, whether the you can say demand your demand generate by the work of the third one person. Sometimes government expand that this type of social securities works, then you demand for a particular sector, or then you demand of particular commodity, then you demand of particular area. And suppose when you can say a short term and long term demand, short term period is a very short period, is near about when you asking some loans of develop your infrastructure, but for the short term that short term period is a very short period. So the loaning, mostly loaning is for a long term period where you can have a time to develop your infrastructure and to develop your machinery, to develop your business also. In a short term demand, it's a very short period, near about 1 to half and a year, where all the firms are ready to produce what they produce at a similar place of time. They never be want to expand their infrastructure, or they never be want to expand their business in some of the other territories, because the short period is a very limited period of time. Now, what is the determinants of demand? Why the demand flexible? How flexible, and what are the factors behind this? So determinants of demand, with all the factors which you show on your slide, price of the product, it's create an impact on demand. Price of the product. If the price of the product is increased, then the demand is decreased, and the same vice versa. Price of the related goods, it also effect on demand. Suppose that the price of tea is increased, and if the substitute are there, if the coffee is there, then most of the majority to purchase a coffee in comparison to tea, because of the price hiking tea. So if the price of the related goods are much cheaper in comparison to other goods or the other alternatives, then the consumer have to be aware for alternate goods. So this is a very important feature, consumer's income level, which is directly relative to demand. If the consumer gets a more and more income, then their demands is also increases, and when the consumer's income level is low, then the demand is decreases. Distribution pattern of national income, it also influence the demand. Consumer tastes and preferences, advertisement of the product, demonstration effect and bandwagon effect. Consumer credit facility is also a very important feature to generate demand or to impact on demand. Demographic and growth rate of population. As we know that we are rapidly growing nation in terms of population. So if the population is always increasing, then the government has to be some fruitful social securities to fulfill all the necessity of all the population, all the citizens of India. If you can say over here that suppose if the growth rate of population is increasing, what are the impact on our economic scenario, or what is the impact on demand condition? If the growth rate of population is increasing and your economy is not in position to facilitate their population, now government has to expand more and more social securities to every citizens of India. So over this, government has to bear some loans, some taxes, some credits from the foreign territories and from the parts of other countries to facilitate their citizens, to facilitate the social securities to all the citizens of India. So growth rate of population is very important feature on creating a bad or the good impact on demand. General standard of living and spending habits, and the climate and weather condition is also a very important feature to generate demand or the decreased demand. So all the features, all the determinants are very much closer to demand. All the features are impacting on demand on the present or the past scenario or the coming future scenario. What is the law of demand? If we can say statement, what is the law of demand? Simply, other things being equal, the higher the price of a commodity, the similar is the quantity demanded, and the lower the price, large the quantity demanded. Similar, if the price is increased, demand is decreased, or if the price is decreased, the demand is increases. Factor we discussed behind law of demand is the substitution effect, income effect, which we discussed in previous slide. Utility maximizing behavior. What is the exception of law of demand? Some types of giffen goods is the inferior goods. Some types of giffen goods के अगर दाम कम हो जाते हैं, जो inferior घटिया वस्तुएं जिनको आप कहेंगे, अगर उनके कोई दाम कम हो जाते हैं, then it never be a good impact on demand condition. क्योंकि वो giffen है, inferior goods हैं, तो उनके प्राइस कम हो जाने पर उनकी डिमांड पर कोई खास फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. The second one is consumer psychological bias. Some types of about quality and price relationship. The third one is article of snow appeal and Vavlan effects. So all the exceptions of law of demand where the relation of price and demand which not be very much equal to law of demand. If you can say a change in quantity demanded in change in demand, how can it relevant? Changes in quantity demanded is related to law of demand due to changes in price, which we discussed. When with a fall in price more a commodity is demanded, there is an extension of demand, and when with a rise in prices less of commodities purchased, there is a constriction of demand. Price बढ़ जाने पर डिमांड का कम हो डिमांड प्राइस बढ़ जाने पर डिमांड का कम हो जाना, दिस इज कॉल्ड अ कॉन्ट्रैक्शन ऑफ डिमांड. प्राइस के कम हो जाने पर डिमांड का बढ़ जाना, दिस इज कॉल्ड अ एक्सटेंशन ऑफ डिमांड. So change in demand is caused by a change in various other determinants of demand, the price remaining unchanged. When we talk about elasticity of demand, the fluctuation of demand, how the demand fluctuated, here we discuss about the facts where the demand affected. We discuss about the determinants of demand where the demand fluctuated. So how the demand fluctuated or how the elasticity of demand works, where we will see in next slide. First we will discuss about the elasticity of demand. What is the meaning of elasticity? So elasticity, as you are aware, elasticity which is some more elastic and you can bend to up and downward direction. So elasticity is a measure of how much buyers and sellers respond to changes in market condition, and elasticity allows us to analyze supply and demand with greater precisions. Suppose if something is elastic, it is responsive, flexible, or readily changes. A rubber band is a finest example of elasticity. If a rubber band is elastic and with little force it easily stretches. A chain on the other hand is rigid and changes very little when pulled. So there are contradictory. If we are talking a rubber band, it is a quite more elastic, where you can change a little force, it easily stretches, and on the other hand chain is a rigid and changes very little when pulled. The same condition which we will see in the scenario of demand fluctuation or demand elasticity. Some types of demand perfectly elastic, some types of demand imperfect elastic, some types of demand are little bit elastic. So these types of goods and these types of fluctuation of demand, which will we see in next slide. So in the context of price elasticity of demand, the price change is comparable to the force applied to rubber band or the chain, and the change in quantity demand is comparable to the stretch scenario. So when a consumer are relatively responsive to price change, we say demand is elasticity. When a consumer are relatively responsive to a price change, we say that demand is elastic. If the price of the commodity is increasing, and suddenly the demand of the particular commodity is decreasing, then we say the demand is elastic. If the commodity price is increasing and there is no impact on demand of particular commodity, then we say it's a perfectly inelastic. So some types of goods are there where the demands are perfectly inelastic. If you can say what is the type of goods where the demand is perfectly inelastic, where the price is increasing and there is not a single effect on demand in their demand. ऐसी कौन से प्रोडक्ट्स हैं जिनका प्राइस बढ़ जाने पर भी उनके डिमांड पे कोई खास फर्क नहीं पड़ता, या उनका डिमांड एज पर द लॉ ऑफ डिमांड कम होना चाहिए था, कम नहीं होता है एज पर राइजिंग इन प्राइसेस. Some types of commodities, suppose if we are talking about the some medicine which is a life care medicine, so if the increase of prices of life care medicine, which is a very much required to save the life of particular people, so if the rise in price of life care medicine, there are not a single decreasing or the bad impact on their demand condition, because it's a life care medicine and it is very much needed to save anyone of life. So everybody can consume at any cost, or everybody can get at any cost. So when consumers are relatively responsive to a price change, we say that demand is elastic. And when the change is inequity demanded by consumer is relatively small in response to a price strategy, we say that demand is inelastic, which we discuss here. Type of inelastic and the types of elastic. Now, price elasticity of demand. What is the meaning of price elasticity of demand? So according to law of demand, when price goes up, consumer demand fewer quantities of a product. If the price of product falls, quantity demanded will rise. It's a simple meaning. But when the price of particular product changes, why how much more or less will consumer buy? This is one of the asking fact कि what when the price of product change, जब price product का change होता है तो by how much, कितना, either the less होता है or more होता है, will consumer to buy. To help answer this question, we will use a measurement called the price elasticity of demand. Change होता है, everybody knows कि when the price is high, the demand is decreases. पर कितना होता है? तो with the help of price elasticity demand, we can solve this query. Price elasticity of demand is the percentage change in quantity demanded given in a percentage change in the price. On the numeric figure, we will see in next slide. What is the meaning of price elasticity of demand? Is the percentage change in quantity demanded given a percentage change in the prices. So it is a measure how much the quantity demanded of a good respond to a change in the price of the particular good. Computing, if you computing the price elasticity of demand with the help of some example, then you can see over the formula, or you can say a equation. The price elasticity of demand is computed as the percentage change. We will discuss what is the meaning of price elasticity demand and how it will work, is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in prices. If the price of an ice cream cone increases from 2 rupees to 220 and the amount you buy falls from 10 to 8 cones, then your elasticity of demand would be calculated as through the formula which you have seen on slide. First, again I will explain. If the price of an ice cream cone increases from Rs2 to Rs2.20 and the amount you buy falls from 10 to 8 cones, then your elasticity of demand would be calculated as 10 minus 8 upon 10 into 100. कितना कम हुआ है? 10 minus 8. पहले था 10, उसके बाद अब 8 हुआ है. Now upon 2.20 minus 2, which is called a price increase in ice cream cones. Now you can 20 upon 10 and the answer is 2. Elasticity of demand would be calculated, which we get the answer is 2, which is quite not perfectly elastic, is a elastic more than 1. Ranges of elasticity. inelastic demand, ये ranges हैं, which is very important feature of elasticity of demand. Inelastic demand, quantity demanded does not respond strongly to price changes. Inelastic demand, quantity demanded does not respond strongly to price changes. Price elasticity demand is less than 1. Elastic demand, what is the meaning of ranges of elasticity? There are several ranges of elasticity of demanded. What is the meaning of ranges? There are certain types of elasticity. First is inelastic demand, where we see quantity demanded does not respond strongly to price changes. Elasticity demand, quantity demanded responds strongly to changes in price. Inelastic था, उसमें quantity demand जब हो रहा है, no respond to price changes. When you talking about the elastic demand, quantity demanded respond to strongly changes in price. Price elasticity of demand is greater than 1. उसमें less than 1 है first one inelastic demand में. Elastic demand में greater than 1 होता है. Perfectly inelastic, when you can talk about perfectly inelastic, quantity demanded does not respond to price changes. Any perfectly inelastic, there are no single impact if the quantity demanded does not respond to price changes. कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, either the price is increase or the decrease in the form of perfectly inelastic. Perfectly elastic, quantity demanded change infinity with any change in prices. So here are the some unit elastic which is equal to 1. Quantity demanded changes to by the same percentage as the prices. अगर if you talking in numeric figure, suppose I say कि if the price is hiked by 10 rupees, in unit elastic scenario, if the price is hiked by 10 rupees, the demand is decreased by 10 units of commodity. Same features is called unit elastic. And you can see a variety of demand curves on the with the help of some ranges of elastic demand. First one is perfectly inelastic demand. Perfectly inelastic demand, you can see an increase in price. Perfectly inelastic demand, elasticity equal to 0. An increase in price, there are not a single impact on demand, which is called 100. Quantity is 100. If the price is $5 to $10, but the quantity is similar, leaves the quantity demand is unchanged. Perfectly inelastic, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता उस पर, कितना भी changes होता है, there is not a single impact of prices on demand. Inelastic demand, where the elasticity is less than 1. You can see when the commodity is little bit lesser to the demand quantity of demanded. When the price is high at 20% of increase in price, where you can see here $5 to $4, elasticity is less than 1. When the price is increase or the decrease 5 to 4 or the 4 to 5, the level of demand decreases is 11% in quantity. Hike हुआ ज़्यादा price में, but the demand is increased is little bit less in comparison to hike in price. So this is called elasticity is less than 1, inelastic demand. First one is perfectly elastic, there is not a single impact of prices on demand. Second one, inelastic demand, when the prices rises more but the demand is increases little bit less in comparison to prices hike of prices. Now if you can see another demand elasticity of demand curve, unit elastic demand, elasticity equal to 1. In this scenario you will see when the price is hiked by suppose 10 rupees, the demand will also increase on the same proportional rate of where the price increases. And the graph scenario, if the suppose 22% increase in price and the same leaves 22% decrease in quantity, same जितना price बढ़ा उतना ही demand उसका कम हो गया. So elasticity equal is to 1. Now the last one feature is elasticity is greater than 1 when a 20% increase in price but the leaves 67% decreases in quantity. प्राइस तो बढ़ा से 22%, बट जो उसका डिमांड पर इंपैक्ट आया वो 67% आ गया. So elasticity is greater than 1. So here are the some ranges of the price elasticity, which you can say the last one feature is perfectly elasticity demand, which is perfectly, first you see perfectly inelastic, now you can see perfectly elastic demand, where at any price, at any level, at exactly suppose $4, the same price, but the level of demand is changed very incidentally. Is the change is infinity range. In the level of perfectly elastic demand, if the price is slightly changed, either the increase or decrease, but there are some major proportion change in demand scenario. And the determinants of elasticity of demand, available close substitute, you can know if the close substitute are there, the level of elasticity of demand which would be differ. Percents of income, luxury or necessity, those items that are necessity in lives are more inelastic than items that are luxury. The time period is also a very important feature, and the market, the last determination of price elasticity is the market definition, the broader of the definition, the few number of the substitutes exists. And the last one feature of the elasticity of demand is called income elasticity. As the same as you see the price elasticity, the income elasticity is all the form of percentage change in quantity demanded, and now first one we have seen percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price. Now we can see income elasticity of demand, the portion is changed, percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in income. So here all the things we covered about the demand analysis and what are the ranges of elasticity of demand in today's lecture. In next lecture, we will discuss about the market segmentation, how the market works, and there are different types of market.
Thank you so much, sir, for this presentation. I am sure that the students will gain a larger insight into this idea, and will also be having perhaps more questions and would like to know more about this series as we have more lectures in the future. In fact, next month we have lectures lined up in microeconomics. So thank you so much, sir, for being here, and thank you students for watching. Have a great day.